Alright, let's take a look back here. Again, provisioning based on your resources and how you'd like to use your F5. Then your environment, you're going to want to set it up and do research. Typically, nominal is the key setup there with minimum non-light, as well as dedicated for GTMs. And it's entirely based on your environment, how you are going to set it up. I don't know if you have a sales rep with F5, if you're going to roll with them, determine what the best setup is. Again, you can go and do research F5 website as far as what the best requirements is for your organization. Alright, setup and functionality. Let's take a look at self-addresses, net masks for VLANs. Let's take a look at that here via the GUI tool, via the setup options. You also have IP assignments on VLANs, the root and admin passwords. We're going to look at changing and setting up those. You can set up IP ranges for SSH. Again, if you want to limit your availability or functionality for the F5 based on if you want a specific IP, we'll take a look at those as far as how that comes in, and I can set that up. We'll also look at access files, etc host, allow, interface and configuration files, bigip.conf and bigip_base.conf, and as well as the backup bigdb.dat. So let's go ahead and pull up the GUI. I'm looking at self-address assignment. Again, setup utility. You're going to want to go under the overview button, overview module, the welcome page, run the setup utility. Again, we see this is an evaluation copy. It tells you when it was first licensed, expiration date, March 6, 2013, and what active modules on there. F5s do come with different type of modules, security modules, firewall modules, just depending on what you want to have installed on here. The modules will appear under the different object tab on the left hand side, and they'll also display here. So look at resource allocation for this machine, nominal setup. You can set up DHCP or manual depending on how you're going to configure your F5. You can set up whatever host name, username you want. If you want the host IP to be the management IP, if it is going to be F5 high availability, so if you have two F5s, I have not attempted to set up an HA pair with two VMware players. Go ahead and try that if you can. As well as after the lesson you decide you want to try to set up HA or redundant pair, go right ahead. This is where you set the administration privileges of the device. Again, root account is for command line, username root. Admin is the admin account for the GUI. And you want to enable SSH access. You click check mark there. And you want to specify a range of IP addresses. So if you just want a specific IP range, or if you just want your PC and your network to access the F5, go ahead and configure that. If you want to set up isolate networks based on user groups, so you're all in the same LAN, if you don't want your help desk to be able to access the F5, go ahead and set up and restrict F5s to your work group, your network group, or your systems group. Click the next button here, and we'll look at a basic network configuration. So the self IP, this comes to the first type of setup here. It is for internal network. I believe this has two interfaces, and one for internal, one for external. And you can set that self IP based up off of whatever your internal network is. So this one is going to be a 10.10.1/24 network. I'm not going to do any type of restrictions on port. You can allow none or allow 443. Maybe you want to block access to all ports on this and just want to have it via console access. That's fine. VLANs work on F5s just as they work with on switches, Juniper, Cisco, Brocade. By default, F5 sets the VLANs to 4094, but again, you can change that to whatever you want. Do you want these tagged or untagged? Again, any VLAN or device, if this IP is associated to internal 10.10.1 network and I want it tagged, it's going to talk to any other VLAN within that same range. So if 4094, if VLAN 11 or if interfaces 11 and 12 want to talk to each other, then I'm going to set it there. I don't want 11 and 12 to talk to each other. I'm not going to tag VLAN 12. It's entirely how you want to set up your network. Public IP or external devices would be external, facing the public internet, outside your network, however you want to set that up. I just chose random IP address, and I'm only allowing port 443 on this device to limit restrictions on that port. Again, you want to set a default gateway of where the next hop is to reach the internet. You set that up here, and again, do I want to set up VLANs on the external interface? I can select or unselect any of these. The next VLAN tag available is 4093. By default, external is going to be 4093 because the internal was 4094. And F5, their range of VLANs is between 1 and 4094. So it again depends on you which interfaces want to talk to each other versus which ones don't. Let me go back to here, see if we covered everything, and we have not. Go back one more. Alright, so big important knowledge when it comes to big IP base and big IP conf. These are probably the two of the most important files that you're going to want to understand and know what they do in the big IP. In the event that the GUI becomes unavailable, the GUI crashes and you only have access to the command line tool, and you have to produce an RMA or an exchange on the device, you're going to want to keep big IP conf and big IP underscore base.conf. The big IP conf file is the file that holds all of your objects for application management or the local traffic management. So an example of items within these are your virtual servers, your load balancers, objects such as pools, nodes, profiles, persistence, snats, nats. This is what that file will hold. On the other side, the big IP conf file that maintains your system information, such as the network components. So your self IPs, your external IP, your internal IP, and local subnets. And let me bring that up here. Let me give you a demonstration of that. Again, if I haven't mentioned this before, the command line structure is based off of Linux. F5 is has its own command line structure, but again, it's all based off of Linux. So we'll look at the host.allow file, and what this does is just access to the device, and typically F5 doesn't want you to edit this one, it would want you to generate the file off of the GUI. Again, if I want to edit this file via Linux, I would do it via Pico or Vi, which is a text editor on the F5. If I want to see what's in the BigIP file, I want to cat out the file to display it. And there's not too much to it because we have not configured any SNATs, BigIP, pools, nodes, virtual servers. It's pretty much an empty file on the device. Under the config or BigIP base.conf file is, we can see where we had set up the internal versus external interfaces. We see those and how they are configured. Again, on the self IP 6530.21.12, we are only allowing TCP HTTPS. You can figure that here and reflect on the GUI. But again, if you're going to stay to the GUI, I would stay to the GUI. The command line, again, I recommend using it and utilizing it as a troubleshooting tool, and if the GUI becomes inaccessible. Again, the only way to jump in there is to use the command line, and this trial software, to me, is the best tool to get practice. You don't want to set up a live F5 and start playing around via the command line to edit files. I would recommend using this tool to edit the files and to practice.